So when you publish a book, there are so many different moving parts involved in a book launch. I just published my book, The Love Trials, this spring, and I did a direct sale pre-order. And this was the most involved I'd have ever been with a launch of a book ever, but I had people place pre-orders with me so that I could package the books and ship them out to people, because I wanted to do all these fun things like throw in character cards and sign all the books and write messages to people and do all of that stuff. But it involved a ton of moving pieces to put together, and it was too many moving pieces for me to hold in one place in my head. So I created a Gantt chart to keep track of all of those different things. A Gantt chart is basically a timeline and like a visual project management schedule that allows you to visually see like how long things take and what things need to happen before other things happen, so that you can just follow the plan and like execute all of the tasks in order, and then eventually you will get to where you need to be. It's for those really complicated, complex tasks that are very interconnected, and it's really hard to keep track of like when you need to place this order, when you need to do this, when you need to get this by, what your deadline is for this in order to make something happen. And I created a Gantt chart for the Love Trials pre-order. So in this video, I'm going to share that Gantt chart with you just so you can get an idea as to what went into this book launch for me, and just give you an idea for something that you also might want to create in your own author business if you also do like really complex book launches or just want to be able to keep track of things. You can also create Gantt charts for like more creative tasks. So if you wanted to create a Gantt chart for drafting or a Gantt chart for an entire book start to finish, you totally could do that too. But I just wanted to share this tool with you because I found this incredibly helpful, and this saved my life in my book launch. So this is what my Gantt chart looks like, and how I created this is that I went to my release day. So I started with where I needed to end up, and that was with release day around here. And then I worked backwards and tried to figure out how long things would take. And then these little arrows connect all of the events. So in order for this to happen, this needs to happen first. In order for me to mail the books, I need to first package the books, and I have to buy the shipping labels. In order for me to package books, I have to have books. And so these are all of the different shipping times of all of the different places that I ordered from. I ordered hardcovers from Book Vault. I ordered hardcovers from Ingram Spark because it was taking really long to order them at Book Vault, and I completely panicked about not having any books to give to readers, so I just figured I would cast a wide net and order from both places just to cover my butt. And I ordered paperbacks from Barnes & Noble. I also ordered character cards and vellum overlays from another wonderful indie author who printed all of those for me, and they came out gorgeous. But all of that was of custom art I had made, so I also had to work within the artist schedule to make sure that the art was ready to send to the printer. And I also had to figure out, like, I had to work with my cover designer, I had to work with like my beta readers. I have one trusted beta reader who worked with me very closely on it, and I wanted her to have one final read through of the book before it was like, after I'd done all of my comments, before it's sent out to everyone and before it's published. So that was also something that went into this Gantt chart. There were just too many moving parts. So in roughly February, which is when I was like, oh, if I'm gonna pull this off at the end of April, I need to start this process going. I worked backwards from release day and just gave my best guesses in terms of how long things would take, and I padded them a lot. So like if I thought that shipping would take 2 weeks from Ingram Spark, I said, okay, shipping's gonna take 3.5. And I just tried to put more time in there, and I worked backwards until I kind of reached right at the time that I was making the Gantt chart. And I was like, okay, I really need to start getting moving on this. And I filled it in with all the things that I knew I needed to have happen in order to have steps. So Shibushio was my artist that I used. I used this artist from Fiverr to create all of my character cards and vellum overlays, and they did an amazing job. They came out absolutely beautifully. This is an example of some of my character cards. All of this is like original character art from that artist on Fiverr, and they did the entire cast of the Love Trials and did a really, really nice job, and then also did my full vellum overlay like page art that came out beautifully. I keep them in my book. It's a little spicy, so I can't show all of it to you, but they're like vellum overlays that go over the pages, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. So I went and I talked to the artist and tried to figure out how long it was going to take for them to design all of this art, and budgeted kind of that much time in the Gantt chart. So I put that all in the Gantt chart. And then I organized to have this other author print those, because I had never printed vellum overlays. I didn't know how to do it. And they were pretty expensive when I like looked online to try to figure out like just a random place to order them from. But there was an author who did it herself, and I was like, I would love to work with an author on this, because they absolutely know what they're doing, because if an author has a business and they send these out, they're gonna be beautiful. And like, she blew me out of the water. She was absolutely fantastic. She's Nightshade Press LLC on Facebook. If you need anything printed, like character cards, art, anything, reach out to her. She's unbelievably awesome. I also didn't really know how many pre-orders I was gonna get, and so I ordered a base of 200 art packs from her, and then I wanted to like see roughly how many I was gonna get. And so we talked a lot about, you know, if I wanted to get more, like whether we'd be able to increase it, and like when I'd need to let her know, whether I was gonna increase it, like all of that kind of stuff. So all of that went into here. So as like this artist is making the art, my cover designer had to finalize the cover so that I could have the cover ready for like the next step, and like my trusted beta reader was also working through it and going through it. And some of these things were happening in tandem. What I've done, and like what is not shown from me just sharing my screen right here, is that I've moved everything around to account for how long things actually took. Originally they were just my estimates, but I dragged and dropped how long these things took based off of like what was actually happening. Because when it's happening in the moment, you get a nice red line here that goes down your screen, and it'll tell you things that are overdue, things that are not, and then you can move them around and like figure out whether or not you're screwed. So like my interior formatting and proofread, this was a rough weekend for me. I didn't realize how long it would take for me to proofread my book well, and I was proofreading like most of the, like just constantly. I did absolutely nothing else except for just proofread and listen to it. I was being held hostage by the little voice, the automated voice that comes from Word, who's like reading every single line out to me. I'm so glad I did, because I mean there were still some little typos that slipped through, but very, very few. And that's what I really like about this, is like if you wanted to change, you know, whether something's in progress. Yeah, see, I also put in my reaction notes how things actually went. So when I like look back on this, I could remember if I've already forgotten and be like, oh yeah, that was great. Like, you know, I can do that again in a weekend. It was hell. It was multiple all-nighters. It was so much work. I pulled my first all-nighter when I was doing this book. I'd never ever done one, not even in college. And I think there were 2 or 3 times that I stayed up like until 5 o'clock in the morning just because I was proofreading this book that weekend, and it was horrible. And so this can be a little bit annoying to set up. And you don't have to use Notion to do this, but I just wanted to make a really quick video like sharing all of these different moving parts that go into a book launch in case you also wanted to create something like this for yourself. I found it incredibly helpful just because I not only in the moment could keep track of what I had to do in order to get there, and I had the peace of mind knowing that if I was doing all those things that eventually I would get to where I needed to be. But now it's really helpful looking at it, seeing exactly how long it took for me to do things, because when I plan my next launch, I'm going to be able to do the same thing, and I'll be able to look back on how long things actually took and then budget different amounts of time for those things. Because I really just gave my best guess, but this is going to be a much more informed guess next time I make this plan. But yeah, after my proofread, I emailed BookVault at like 5 o'clock in the morning after I finished proofreading it, being like, I have my files, please, like I want to place my order. And then I waited for a week and a half to get that email and like order placed with them. And then I panicked on this day when I still hadn't heard from BookVault, and that's when I placed my order from Ingram. Actually, no, I panicked on this day. That's when I started my Ingram Spark hardcover processing, and I placed my order here when I still hadn't heard from BookVault. But then BookVault, I finally got my order placed on like the 31st, but then it was really, really fast. And so the BookVault order actually arrived significantly faster than the Ingram order, even though the Ingram order was placed earlier. This actually isn't completely accurate. I think I was just so stressed about this whole situation when I was doing it that I didn't have time to upload the Gantt chart, but I was packing like nonstop, and I recruited my family, my friends, everyone to help me pack those books because there were hundreds of them, and I was trying to do it all myself, and it was amazing, and it was so overwhelming and just like such a rush. But I was really relieved because all the books came early, and so I had more time than I budgeted for to do that as well. And I was also overwhelmingly happy that most of the books, at least domestically, and actually even internationally, most of the books arrived to people before release day. And I was really worried they were all going to be late, but somehow they all managed to be early, and so that was also pretty awesome. And there are always delays that get baked into things like this, like when I was having the character cards, like the wonderful author that printed my character cards in vellums paid for extra shipping just to make sure that they would arrive for me on time, and they were still like significantly, like they just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed because the shipper kept delaying them. But it ended up being okay because BookVault was taking forever to answer my messages, and so everything arrived at roughly the same time. So yeah, that's kind of what the Gantt chart looks like. That's why I like to use it. They're a little bit tricky to set up. Like at the beginning, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's great that there are templates for that in Notion and they make it relatively easy. I know a lot of people also can make Gantt charts on Google Sheets, and you can just do this by like kind of almost making the boxes a certain length and like marking them in red when they're overdue. But I really like the one in Notion because I can drag and drop and move things around and connect them with the arrows, which makes following it a lot easier. So that's my author hack of the day. I hope that that was interesting to just peek at. If it was, I'd be super grateful if you could like this video and also subscribe to my channel. And I make weekly videos sharing actionable writing tips that helps me make my writing better or improve my publishing process. I'm the author of The Love Trials, which is the book that this Gantt chart was made to release, which is a book about ghost hunters who hunt the ghosts of serial killers, and the one serial killer that they are hunting who is known for targeting lovers and making them play games like in Saw, but he accidentally takes a pair of enemies instead. I swear that's the best pitch that I have for it so far. It's just a mouthful and a half. And I also have a 5-book paranormal YA series about teens who hunt ghosts and get up to all sorts of craziness in like their tiny Midwestern town. But I hope you have a good week, everybody. And as always, happy writing.